you're going to be right in the thick of many of these games, which is kind of what you saw. May not be pretty. I'm sure Bruins fans liked it more when they were winning games 4-2, 3-1, all those things last year when that came in bunches, when you had the scoring to complement that great defense. But it's going to be a little bit of a tougher grind this year, but that does not mean it's going to be a slog by any means when you have that much talent on the back end. But it's just going to be a little bit more arduous from where you were last year.
A little more ground and pound, so to speak, like in football. Run the ball a lot. That's what it feels like it's going to be this year. But unlike the Patriots, you can win the way the Bruins are doing it. The Patriots cannot, unfortunately.
Bruins Beat is brought to you by FanDuel, the exclusive wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network.
And welcome into the Bruins Beat on CLNS Media. It's October 16th. I'm Evan Marinofsky. That's Conor Ryan. Back together on Bruins Beat. Conor, what is up?
Evan, I'm doing well. How you doing?
Doing great. I know you're fighting through the elements right now to deliver the hot takes, which I respect. I think that's the sort of level of compete that this podcast has become so well known for. So you're really carrying out the mission.
Yeah, fighting a little bit of a cold. It's going around. Not the Roni, not anything like that. Don't worry. But just a little bit of the sniffles, a little bit of congestion. But I will get my way through this. Don't worry, Evan.
Yeah, no, you are, and that's why I always believe in Emergen-C, the little packets of vitamin C. Those things are unbelievable when you're sick or right before you think you're getting sick. But by the way, another really good thing, FanDuel, our partners, they're really cool too. So you should go check them out if you haven't already, which I'd be surprised if you haven't already because we've been telling you to do that for months. Anyways, Bruins 2-0. Print the t-shirts, 82-0, Conor. This team is destined for the Stanley Cup final, undefeated. But again, Saturday night, they get a 3-2 win. They edge out the Nashville Predators. And then they have a nice little break, just like you needed to start the season. Nice big old, 5-day break before they go out west, face the Sharks.
Exactly what you want.
That's what you need in October. Got to rest up. Everybody, so much went into games 1 and 2. You got to have a big break before game 3. But we'll talk about Saturday's win first, and then we'll dive into sort of the line shuffling, which happened on Monday, because there's a lot of interesting takeaways from that. But we'll start with the game on Saturday night, which I missed, actually. I was watching your alma mater. Get beat by your future alma mater.
It's fine.
BU lost 8-2 to the NTDP, but the NTDP scoring, a lot of it came from future Terriers. So it was, the place kind of didn't know what to do. There were a lot of cheers. Yeah, I mean, BU wins every time, as you've come to see. So I watched the game Sunday morning. It was nice. It was like peaceful. I wasn't on Twitter during I just kind of watched it. Got to fast forward through parts. It was great. It was just perfect. But I think my biggest takeaway from Saturday's game, that in one game, if you said, describe what you think the 2023-24 Bruins will be, it's that game, right? Physical, good forechecking, hard to play against, and that kind of goes in all three together. Good defense, good goaltending. 5-on-5 scoring is not going to be their strength. What were sort of your impressions of that game Saturday?
Yeah, I kind of agree with what you said. I think it kind of defies how the Bruins, especially early on this season, are going to have to kind of grind out points here. That's a gutsy win, right? Like, it wasn't pretty. As you said, 5-on-5 scoring was really tough to come by. You relied on your proven offensive guy, offensive conduit, and David Pastrnak to bail you out. You capitalize on special teams. I mean, they get 2 power play goals, both from James van Riemsdyk, which is a welcome addition there of a guy like that contributing. But 5-on-5, you're still going to have to sort through in order to get consistent scoring there. But as long as your goaltending holds up like it did in that game with Jeremy Swayman, as long as you're, killing 7 power plays for Nashville, I mean, they score. They get the extra skater there, so they do get 1 goal. But technically 7 for 7 in terms of actual power play situations. Again, as long as your defense and goaltending is holding their own in that regard and you're still capitalizing on special teams, it's a pretty good formula to at least be in the thick of it, to grind out points, get wins. Even if you come up short in overtime, you're still keeping things close. Like, that's going to have to be the formula. Now, again, the Bruins are hoping that, something's changed in terms of more consistent 5-on-5 offense. That's kind of what we saw from Jim Montgomery shuffling up the lines on Monday during practice. But that's very much going to be a work in progress. But if you're the Bruins and you're kind of starting anew with this new season, and you have a foundational strength in net and on defense, you're going to be right in the thick of many of these games, which is kind of what you saw. It may not be pretty. I'm sure Bruins fans liked it more when they were winning games 4-2, 3-1, all those things last year when that came in bunches, when you had the scoring to complement that great defense. But it's going to be a little bit of a tougher grind this year, but that does not mean it's going to be a slog by any means when you have that much talent on the back end. But just going to be a little bit more arduous from where you were last year.
A little more ground and pound, so to speak, like in football. Run the ball a lot. That's what it feels like it's going to be this year. But unlike the Patriots, you can win the way the Bruins are doing it. The Patriots cannot, unfortunately. In the offensive zone, it's interesting. There was not a lot of 5-on-5 play on Saturday night. There just wasn't much. There was a lot of penalties. But for the little bit of 5-on-5 there was, I was really intrigued with the forecheck of the Bruins, of guys like Lucic, guys like Beecher, obviously that fourth line, and just throughout how quick they were on the Predators' defensemen. And there were a few turnovers made because of it. There was one, I forget which Predators defenseman it was, kind of backhanded it. He was sort of forced to his right, backhanded it into the middle of the zone, and Pastrnak just got it and got a really strong scoring chance, and I think was blocked. But that, you know what that looks a lot like? The Florida Panthers last year. And we've been saying this all along, like crazy. I wonder where they got that one from. Imitation, I guess, is the best form of flattery. But I think, again, you see glimpses of it, and it feels like to play that out, to play that style of sort of forechecking, they have the roster for that. They may not have the roster for the 5-on-5 scoring they had last year, right? No Bergeron, no Krejci, no Bertuzzi, no Hall, which is obviously are huge losses. But if you want to beat the hell out of a team when they go back to retrieve a puck, you can do that. You can do that. And again, no real goals straight off of that on Saturday, but I think at some point those will come. James van Riemsdyk has sort of been a guy that I think he's kind of a big question mark inside the top six of, should he belong there? Is he past his prime? Gets 2 goals on the power play on Saturday, which is kind of what we expect of him this year, producing on the power play. What have you thought of his game so far?
Yeah, I think 5-on-5 is still a work in progress. Again, we'll talk about it in a little bit, but he's pushed further down the lineup following Monday's practice, which I think is where he's probably best suited, especially considering who his line mates could be. But in terms of the power play, this is still a guy that even at 34 years old, he's still effective in what his role is there. And again, you look at his numbers and how much they did last year. Yes, he only had 2 power play goals with Philly, but that was also a dreadful power play for.
Oh my God, terrible!
I think they were last place in the NHL. I think they were like 15.4%. And again, it all depends on. I don't think James van Riemsdyk changes what his approach is at the net front. Like, this is a guy that's a big body, really, really good at tipping pucks, really good hand-eye coordination. Charlie McAvoy last week mentioned that he's right up there with, I think Joe Pavelski is the guy that everyone mentions, but then you've got, JVR and some of these other guys are right below him in terms of just having that knack for doing that. So Van Riemsdyk's not changing his approach there, but what is changed is instead of having, insert flyer here on the power play that didn't really make a big difference for them last year, you have David Pastrnak and Charlie McAvoy and Brad Marchand that are feeding him pucks, and you're seeing those chances. So that doesn't mean that I don't think James van Riemsdyk's going to have a 30-goal season, but it's kind of what we mentioned before, right? Like, if Nick Ritchie can give you 7 power play goals and 15 total goals 2 years ago, I think James van Riemsdyk, who's pretty damn good at that same exact spot, can give you that in that spot. So really encouraging. And again, it's good to see a guy that's not reinventing the wheel at this point of his career. Like, yes, he may not be the 30-goal guy he was those last few years in Toronto, but if you put him at the net front, you have skilled guys around him that are going to feed him the puck. Good things are going to happen. Like, even I think that first goal he had, like, just that split second, like, cross crease pass there. Like, again, banks off a guy, helps out, but that goes to show, like, you make those split second passes down low like that, good things are going to happen, especially if there's another guy on the other side of the net front there. So really encouraging with what you've seen from him so far.
Yeah, I think on the power play, you nailed it. It's what we expected. And again, when you have Pastrnak kind of on that other side, who I think he was trying to get the puck to, I think, good things can happen. But yeah, I mean, 5-on-5, we got to see a little bit more. Again, we haven't seen much. Chicago was the opener, and then you barely played at 5-on-5 on Saturday. So it's hard for us to sort of give a full, James van Riemsdyk 5-on-5 breakdown when there just has not been much 5-on-5 play, at least through 2 games to really take a lot from. We're going to spend a lot of time on 5-on-5 scoring in this. We're going to spend a lot of time on the sort of the offense. I want to touch on the defense and goaltending a little bit. I thought defensively they were great Saturday. I thought they were solid. And again, not a surprise. Those are your 6 guys. The one, I guess, little issue that I had was I think it was Nashville's first goal. Kevin Shattenkirk joined the rush, which is something Montgomery's wanted and preached. And, Boston's defense is aggressive. Montgomery was sort of outspoken about that last year of like, we'll trade chances with teams. We're confident. That is one area where I think you do have to watch it a little bit with this group because, can you get caught up ice with this team? I don't know. I don't think it's always the smartest move. It was a good chance. I mean, it was a high slot, low pad shot, just bounced out. And, again, I think if that's swallowed up, if that goes in, it misses the net, I think different things happen. But it goes off Saros's right pad, and the Predators are out of the zone in a second and going the other way for a chance. So that is one area where I think maybe you do have to be a little cautious with that. The other thing is I thought Swayman looked great. I thought Jeremy Swayman looked superb on Saturday. He was inundated with shots, especially early. Did you see anything from the defense or Swayman that gave you a reason for optimism or cause for concern? Anything?
Yeah, I think as advertised, right, in terms of what you're expecting from those guys, Jeremy Swayman looked really, really solid, which is really encouraging to see. I think Jim Montgomery mentioned until something drastic happens, they're probably going to go trade off stats for the start of this season. It helps out when your schedule's so stretched out early on in October and November that you kind of have to do that, right? Or else you're having Swayman, sit for, 6, 7, 8 days, right? So, but Swayman I think looked really good. Olmark looked really strong as well. So got to keep that up. Again, as much as we talk about like who's going to get the lion's share of reps, Bruins' best case scenario is probably they both get, 41 starts, right? That would be the perfect situation, right? And having both those guys playing at a really high level. So no concerns there between those 2 guys. And then, defense I think has been really solid. Again, I think they have to be careful with their D and jumping up into the play because you also don't have the firepower in place, right, to trade chances, I think. So it's not like last year where you're like, all right, well, they've got enough guys sprinkled throughout the lineup that even if they push the pace and get burned for it, they can get that right back, right? You don't have nearly as much of that this year unless you're really relying on your big guns or your power play or what have you. So you have to kind of find that fine line between playing how I think Montgomery wants to play, but also not getting burned because you just don't have the scoring up front, especially to really kind of negate that risk taking there. But as a whole, I think guys have looked pretty good. Like, again, we know Forbert's flaws, but was great on the PK. Even like Shattenkirk jumping into the play, I think he's been pretty steady back there. Like, he's not flashy, doesn't really do anything like skating wise or anything like that really kind of stands out, but just seems to consistently make the right plays. I think he's actually been really good on the power play in the second unit. Like, when he's finding those opportunities to get pucks on net, like, they're usually making it right to the goalie, right? So I actually think he's been pretty solid in that spot. And it'll be curious to see how they kind of continue to build out his role, especially with Forward, because right now, a whole lot of D-zone starts for those guys, when I don't know if really that's exactly what you want to hand, especially a guy like Shattenkirk.
I was going to say for Forbert, D-zone starts, that's perfect. The complete opposite. So you're right. I mean, you're going to kind of have to find that common ground. And you're right. I mean, you cannot trade chances with this team. Again, they're not like, it's not impossible to score 5-on-5. They're just not last year's team. Last year was an anomaly. Right. Most teams can't trade chances in the NHL. Again, I'm not trying to be a Bruins apologist here. But again, I don't know about that. But anyways, Connor, quick word from our sponsor. All right, quick second here to tell you about our good friends over at FanDuel. Snap into action this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. Again, that's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/Boston and kick off the NFL season. Again, FanDuel.com/Boston. FanDuel, the official partner of the NFL. So Monday, Jim Montgomery comes out in practice and kind of really shakes things up. He talked about it after the home opener, saying that, they want to keep guys together, but they also are going to shuffle lines. Montgomery shuffled lines a lot last year. So this isn't a surprise, but I'll read off the lines for you. DeBrusk, Zaka, Pasternak, Marchand, Patra, Geeky, James van Riemsdyk, Coyle, Frederick, Lucic, Beecher, Lauko, and then Brown, and then Heinen's just here. I just thought they're having a good time.
Chilling.
Just having, it's like a stick time. Just free skating out there. So I respect that. I think Sarah Sivian said it best. She said he's in this situationship with the Bruins. So
yes,
I think there's truth to that. Then on D, Lindholm, McAvoy, Grzelcyk, Carlo, Forbert, Shattenkirk, Mitchell's the 7th D, and then Manny Fernandez was starting in net with Tim Thomas decided to stay behind him.
Yes.
So great stuff on that front. Petrov McGuire will be pleased with that goaltending tandem. But defense, whatever. That's kind of a. We know what's gonna come of that stuff. By the way, Brandon Carlo I think has been awesome to start the year. But that's an aside. Up front, Patra is back in the top 6. Coyle moved on to third-line center. Van Riemsdyk as the third-line left wing. I think the real one that people were like, wait, what? Morgan Geeky as the right shot on that line with Marchand and Patra. I am not quite ready to put Morgan Geeky in the top 6. I'm not ready to put him with Marchand and Patra. Do you disagree, or are you going to set me straight on this, or where are you at?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's so tough to really kind of glean so much out of just 2 games, right? Especially like one of those games you said, like barely had any 5-on-5 play, right? You don't really have a lot of situation where you can really glean from what these guys have. But I think you look at Montgomery and his line of thinking where you want to see what Patra can bring in that top 6 spot. And he kind of mentioned, we look at Patra and he has this 9-game sample size. Seemed like a given at some point they were going to elevate him into the top 6. But Montgomery pretty much said on Monday, no, we kind of wanted to see him in the third line and see what he could bring and build some chemistry. We don't want to yank him up and down the lineup, but he's looked really good, and he's looked really good next to Morgan Geeky, who Montgomery says he's been really impressed with in terms of his forechecking ability, his ability to read plays, D-zone coverage, all that stuff. So I think it's kind of a 2-for-1, right, in terms of Patra's elevation there, where if you're putting him next to an elite talent like Marchand, we obviously know if you're trying to make Patra stick and you want to play to his strengths, sticking him with Marchand makes plenty of sense. But by that same token, look at how many other forwards who have done really well next to a guy like Brad Marchand, like Riley Nash, Danton Heinen. If all of a sudden you put Geeky into that spot, and we've talked about Geeky before that, his production seems like a guy that really could get more out of what the Bruins have here if they give him more minutes. Maybe the right course is, if all of a sudden you have a top line that works with those 2 guys, Geeky becomes a guy that can give you 40 points, and Patra looks like he can stay in the NHL. That's a win-win, right? And then as you look down the rest of the lineup, everything falls into place. So I don't know if Geeky's going to be the permanent guy there by any means, but I think if you're Jim Montgomery and you really want to overhaul these lines, see where guys can fit, and most importantly, see where you can get more 5-on-5 scoring. If you can get your rookie centerman involved, get him rolling, along with the guy you probably view as having the highest upside at 5-on-5 scoring among your free agent signings, that seems like a win-win. And at this point, it doesn't hurt.
No, I agree. The only thing is the playing with Marchand. I agree, he makes guys better, but I mean, you have to think back. The Heinen thing, he had Bergeron in the middle, and then
Right.
Riley Nash was with Pasternak. So there is that.
Does help. Does help.
It does help. It does help. I don't know if Patra's quite there
I don't know
yet.
I don't know why you're slandering Riley Nash, but
I can't help it. He's a Harvard grad. You just they can take it. They can handle it. It's interesting because when I look at this lineup, like DeBrusk, Zacha, Pasternak, I like that. I really like Van Riemsdyk, Coyle, and Frederick. I think that's a very strong third line, and Coyle's back with Frederick. I got to say, watching Coyle had an outstanding game against Nashville. I mean, just in his own zone, penalty killing, just does everything right. It's one of those things where it's like, if he could just produce consistently. Now, again, maybe moving him all over the lineup isn't exactly conducive to that. But, the tough part is, right? DeBrusk, Zacha, Pasternak, good. Marchand with Patra, like it. That wing spot, who else is going to slot in there? That's the thing. I do think, I'm not a big fan of Geeky quite yet. I know you're close to getting me over the hump on Geeky. You're close. Just at least play with a little more pace.
Not joining the Geek Squad yet.
Not quite there. I'm too busy smoking that pot with Patra. So I don't the Geek Squad. Not quite there yet. And Van Riemsdyk, I'm not again not sold on him 5-on-5 either.
I haven't thought of a nickname for Van Riemsdyk yet. Give me another week.
Nothing yet on that. Well, I guess the one thing is Van. How big of a Seinfeld guy are you?
Not a huge Seinfeld. I know, Evan, you're like the oldest, however freaking old you are. But I know you like vintage '90s stuff. So I know you're a big Seinfeld guy, but not as well versed as you are, unfortunately.
No, I love Curb too. Curb is outstanding. I mean, there's an argument for Curb being better than Seinfeld. I think just different eras. So, and also one was on HBO where you can swear and say whatever you'd like this. We can swear when we want and this and that. So it's great. But I was gonna say Van Riemsdyk. The only thing is the Van in Seinfeld. There was a whole thing about the Van Buren boys. It was like a made-up gang about Martin Van Buren. It was really stupid. But that's the only thing I can think of with that. I have nothing else.
We'll work on it. It's a marathon, not a sprint. It's a long season. We got feels like a 28-day layoff right now. So
we'll workshop instead of working on stories and stuff that stuff. You could get going on a JVR bandwagon name.
Yes.
But even Coyle, giving him a shot in the top 6 there, I like him at center more. I like him with Frederick, or I like him down the middle more. But I'm not moving Zacha out of there. I want Patra to get top 6 center time. So again, I think this is a work in progress. I don't think this is going to be forever. I think that fourth line, something's there. I think Lucic, Beecher, Lauko, you got something there. I think, in a perfect situation, Van Riemsdyk, Coyle, Frederick, that's a solid third line. Again, it's just trying to generate this 5-on-5 scoring, which is what Montgomery alluded to on Monday. And also it's getting Patra that top 6 time. Because, again, 7 games left of this 9-game sample. I have a tough time thinking he's going out. I said this to Hags on Friday, he gives you options. If Patra's not there, Coyle's not moving out of the top 6 as a center. I don't think so. So again, he gives you options there, which is the biggest thing. One other thing, and this is long term. I don't want to look too far into this, but we can kind of touch on it now because Lord knows we'll be talking about it later. Let's say it kind of stays similar to these lines, right? You got your third line is ideal with Van Riemsdyk, Coyle, Frederick. Lucic, Beecher, Brown, good as the fourth line. DeBrusk, Zacha, Pasternak makes sense on line 1. But then that one little spot next to Patra and Marchand, let's say on the right side, it's just kind of not really finding it with Geeky. Maybe he needs to move down in the lineup in the third or fourth line or something like that. Let's just say, right? They're having success. Does that mean they got to make a move at the deadline for a top 6 winger? I just don't want that to be the case this year because I don't want to give up futures. But I'm curious, if that's down I'm going down the rabbit hole here, but I'm wondering if that's going to be an issue later in the year.
Yeah, I mean, I just can't see it being a situation where, I think we did our bold predictions. I said they weren't going to make any move to buy at the deadline just because I think the Bucks got to stop somewhere, right, in terms of relinquishing draft assets and younger players. And this seems like the perfect year where you can build internally. You finally have young, promising players in place, whether it's Beecher, Patra, Lori, who could be up later on this year, what have you. I just can't see a situation unless it's, Vancouver wants to give you Conor Garland on a silver platter or what have you. I just can't see a spot where, unless it's lower level draft compensation or maybe like younger players in Providence and maybe you don't view as being long term, like unless like Vancouver loves a guy like Lysell and you have another piece like that and gives you a guy like Garland, maybe, but you got to make the money work. You don't have a lot of money there.
Yep.
Again, a perfect situation where, I'm mapping out a scenario where all things kind of fall into your lap. Rarely ever happens in real life in the NHL, especially when you have the cap involved. So I still view it as being kind of more of a long shot there. And I think the Bruins would rather just look at it internally, look to the future of, I think they view themselves as having a competitive team. Seems like they have the pieces in place for that. But when you look at the strides I hope these younger guys can make, the established talent sign long-term and the amount of cap space this upcoming offseason, I can't see a situation where they're necessarily going to be, putting all the chips on the table yet again this year, when I feel like you've got a good foundation and now it's all about building it in this kind of post-Bergeron era.
I agree. Make it work with the guys you got. Give guys a chance in the top 6. Again, I'm sort of writing Geeky off in that scenario. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I mean, again, I think there is upside. You mentioned it a lot in the offseason with a guy like him. And again, if it works with Patra, I mean, so far those two have looked solid together. You never know. The other thing is, and you mentioned him once there with the mock Vancouver trade. Let's say Lysell has a good year in Providence. Let's say Lysell really finds his game in the next couple of months. That could be something. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm not saying that will happen, but it's an option. It's an option down the road. And again, if they are what we think they're going to be, which is competitive, but they want to give Lysell a shot there for a couple of games mid-season, yeah, I mean, the door is open for that. Because I think right now, again, in that top 6, if Patra stays, you have in the top 6, as we talked about, right? DeBrus, Zacha, Pastrnak, Marchand. You want to throw Patra in there. That 6th forward, is it Geeky? Is it Coyle? Is it Van Riemsdyk? I think we're going to see a lot of them rotate through this year. Again, though, I'm interested to see because, the competition is not super tough coming up. So you will get a pretty good look at how guys can produce in that top 6. So interesting stuff, Connor. Already jumbling the lines. Things are moving around, but never not interesting, which is the good part. Speaking of things that are always interesting, Connor, what can people look forward to from you over at Boston.com and the Boston Globe?
Yeah, we'll have you covered every step of the way this season, even during this extended lull as the Bruins head out on the West Coast. But every game, practice, we're going to have you covered with updates, look at lineup changes, features, all that stuff's further down the pipeline for this season. So a lot of exciting stuff where we're cooking up over at Boston.com and the Globe. So please read all of our stuff over there. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, you can at ConnorRyan_93.
Do all that. And remember, Connor, you gotta get healthy by Thursday night. That's the big thing. Gotta get yourself back in shape. Emergency, some Mucinex, whatever it takes.
Tropicana, some little OJ.
Yes, that too. Some toast, all that fun. Well, toast, I guess, isn't really a cold thing.
Yeah, it's fine.
But
toast is just good anyway. So
toast is always good with some butter on it. Anyways, Connor, that is this week's Bruins Beat. I'm Evan Marinofsky. You Bruins Beat listeners, have a great rest of your week.
The CLNS Media Network is powered by FanDuel. Sign up at FanDuel.com/Boston and get in on the action with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose.